All right, looks like we're live. So first of all, welcome everybody to the Sheriff's Roundtable. Uh, one of the big um, one of the big things that Noble has been trying to do is be as inclusive as possible, and so one of the key elements moving forward was really involving our sheriffs. And so I'd like to thank Noble and all of our sheriffs that are participating. The topic, the panel scope, will really surround 21st century policing and where do we go from here. I'd like to certainly take an opportunity. My name is Patrick Labat. I just recently retired from the City of Atlanta Department of Corrections, and certainly welcome everyone. Let's start by welcoming our panelists. We have a great group of panelists, some of whom I know personally, but we'll start with Sheriff Gary McFadden from Mecklenburg County, as well as Sheriff Rochelle Bilal, Philadelphia Sheriff's Office, Sheriff Tompkins in Suffolk County, the Boston area, is a really good friend of mine, and certainly Melanie Maddox, who is literally one county over from me, DeKalb County Sheriff, and congratulations, Sheriff, on the most recent election. So that said, we certainly want to thank our sponsors, Axon and Thomas Reuter. And with that, we will have our sponsors say a word or two.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Jim Dinkins, president of Thomson Reuters Special Services, a division of Thomson Reuters that supports our law enforcement community. And I want to first thank Noble for putting the conference on and inviting us to spend a couple minutes just kind of kicking off the session. You know, having spent 28 years in law enforcement myself before joining Thomson Reuters, I want to just tell you how proud we are at Thomson Reuters to support the men and women in law enforcement, our law enforcement partners. And it's something that we want to thank you not only for the service that you've done in the past, but where you're going to take law enforcement into the future. You know, this evening you're going to talk about where do we go from here? And that's a great question. And obviously it's very timely given the circumstances. But beyond that, you are serving in law enforcement at what I consider is the most pivotal time in our law enforcement history. You not only have the traditional criminal activity that you face day in and day out, but you also have international terrorism, the radicalization of so many people domestically. You have the deal with the internet crimes, which you have, you know, the internet's opened up a window into all of our homes where people are taking advantage of our elderly, our children, and they're selling everything from fentanyl to counterfeit COVID personal protection equipment. And you have to deal with these crimes all under more scrutiny and even hostility than ever before. But I think that we all can agree that there's room for improvement, big room for improvement. And as we move forward, I think, you know, I know we will be here to support Noble. It's something that we've been involved with Noble for a long time. I personally have supported it during my law enforcement career in different leadership positions. So we're going to be here toe and toe to support you in any way you can. You know, as we make this transition, as you think of where we're going to go from here, I think that it's not just how law enforcement engages our communities, the communities that they protect and serve, but it's also how the reform and how law enforcement officers of all nationality and color are handled within the departments. So it's just not how we engage those in our communities, but it's also how the departments handle the situations of diversity. And I think until we actually deal with any type of external relationships, we have to really make sure we have good policies, procedures for those internal practices to make sure that we don't disenfranchise anybody and that we actually promote that. And that's the beautiful thing about Noble, is getting out the diversity within our law enforcement ranks. So I just want to wish you guys the best of luck. You know, I look forward to seeing where you guys take and lead it. Reform won't come and change won't come in, and we won't guide ourselves into the future of law enforcement with politicians, not saying anything bad about them, but politicians, and I know that most of our sheriffs are elected, but the Capitol Hill, all right? Capitol Hill is not going to guide us. the media is not going to guide us. It's going to come from people within. And that's the beautiful thing I think about, the conference today and thinking about how we can get to where we need to be in the law enforcement community, where we earn back the trust and confidence of our communities. And actually, we earn the trust and confidence back from our own employees within the departments they're in. So I just want to thank you all, wish you the best, and be safe.
Thank you. Thank you, Jim. One of the things I always say is the biggest room in the world is the room for improvement. So thank you for your leadership, and certainly thank you on behalf of Noble for sponsoring such a wonderful seminar and forum. So with that, we will go to Axon and allow them a couple of moments. So thank you, Regina.
Hi, good evening, Chief. Thank you for that. My name is Regina Holloway, and I am the VP of Community Impact at Axon. This is a new role both for Axon and for me. I'm literally only in day 11, and I appreciate and I'm honored that Noble has invited me here and that I'm here at the Sheriff's Roundtable with you. So my work at Axon will be centered on bringing racial equity, a racial equity lens to Axon's products and services, and to bring community to the table as stakeholders. In that spirit, I want to thank you for all of your work and your deep commitment to serving the community and making everyone safer. These are challenging times to do this work, and we are all facing great adversity now more than ever. But we're here today because I believe that adversity can be a catalyst for change. And you folks are leading that for sure. Your work is more important now than ever. And I'm in awe of the strides that you are making. Thank you so much for allowing me to be here.
Thank you. Thank you for the longstanding tradition and partnership that Axon has had with Noble. So again, thank you. And we appreciate all of your support. And I'm looking forward to a vibrant conversation. So thank you.
Thank you.
So let's start with the introduction of our panelists. Each one, it speaks a lot when we talk about becoming a sheriff and part of our community. So let's start with Sheriff Gary McFadden from Mecklenburg County. If you'll give us a couple, 2 minutes each, and to introduce yourself and tell us, about yourself. Thank you. I can't hear, Sheriff.
Okay, can y'all hear me now?
Yes, thank you, Sheriff.
Okay. I thought they unmuted. My name is Gary McFadden. I'm the 45th Sheriff of Mecklenburg County. I'm the first African-American sheriff here in Mecklenburg County. Next July, I will have my 40th year in law enforcement. I began my law enforcement career with the Charlotte Mecklenburg Police Department. Had a long career there in homicide. Retired in 2011. The chief kept me for a while because of the DNC and community engagement. After that, I had a television career. Some of you may know, had my own TV show called I Am Homicide and Homicide City on the Discovery Channel. I put all that down to become the sheriff of Mecklenburg County. We're here, which I love my job, absolutely love it. I'm waiting to find out where we're going to go, who we're going to take with us on this journey. I'm excited about being the sheriff. I try to travel across the United States to meet other sheriffs so we can talk about being progressive. If we're not progressive, I think we're going to lose this battle. This is a movement, not a moment, and hope that we capture it in this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff. And next we will have Sheriff Rochelle. Is this Bilal?
That's correct. Good evening.
Thank you.
First of all, let me thank Noble for inviting the sheriffs into the conference so that we can have a discussion about the issues pertaining to us. I'm Rochelle Bilal. I'm the first woman sheriff ever elected in 181 years in the Philadelphia and city and county area. So I'm the first one. And so therefore, I'm working towards change and working towards bringing and bridging the gap between all the law enforcement agencies within this city. Most of the time, sheriffs are put to the side and they are specific in doing just what, but they are law enforcement professionals. And so therefore, I'm ensuring that our sheriffs reach out and become a part of all the law enforcement entities within the city. I said I've been raised and born and raised in Philadelphia, a child from North Philadelphia. I spent 27 years in the Philadelphia Police Department. Then I became the public safety director in Cowan Borough, which is one of the townships outside of the city. I've been the president of the Guardian Civic League since 2007. I was once Noble, a secretary under James Golden and Region 1 secretary, and so therefore, and a member of Noble. So I'm aware of what Noble is doing and what it's trying to do, and I look forward to working with Noble in the future as a sheriff for the city and county of Philadelphia. Thank you.
Okay. Well, first of all, congratulations, Sheriff. And certainly we're looking for exciting things from you. No pressure, but congratulations. Next, we have a friend of mine who actually we met at Noble. So this is a piece of networking that is what Noble is about and how we better ourselves. So without further ado, Sheriff Tompkins, Steve Tompkins, it's great to see you, and certainly take it away.
Hey, Pat, it's great to see you. It's better to be seen than viewed, and so this is a very good thing. I would like to echo Sheriff Bilal's comments about sheriffs and having this panel with sheriffs tonight. I think it's a long overdue thing, and I trust that this is not a flash in the pan and that we will have sheriffs more intimately integrated in what Noble is doing. I am the second person of color to be the sheriff up here in Boston, Massachusetts, in Suffolk County. My predecessor, an African-American female, Andrea Cabral, was the first person of color and the first woman to be sheriff up here in Boston. We were classmates in college, and she invited me to come on her team, basically to run her communications department. My background prior to getting into law enforcement was in communications. I was a television producer and director for about 20 some odd years. I say that just to reference the fact that coming into law enforcement, I brought a different lens with me. I didn't come up through the ranks in corrections and not in policing, of course, but I did a lot of community work, tons of community work. And so coming into this job, I brought that with me. The first two times that Andrea asked me to join her team, I said no. I'd never been to jail. I'd never been to jail to visit anyone or to spend time in jail. And I just didn't see working in the jail for my livelihood as something that I wanted to do. When she called me the third time, she asked me to come and see her, which I did. And then she asked me to go down to the communications department and meet the folks down there, which I did. And they took me on a tour, took me to a unit. I'm standing on a tier and I'm looking out, and all I see, for as far as the eye can see, is black and brown men, probably about 75, 80 men, crammed into this small room. And I thought two things. The first thing I thought was about the Middle Passage. Clearly, I wasn't there, but I've read about it. And this looked like the belly of the beast to me, seeing all of these brothers packed into this room. The second thing I thought was, I'm going to take this job. I've been fortunate. I've caught a couple of good breaks in life, and I felt that it was time, frankly, to give back, to pay my rent for being a citizen on the globe and to help my people in two ways. One, to dissuade our youth from going into a life of criminality, but also to create opportunities while folk were with us, male and female, so that when they left us, they would leave in a way that was better than when they arrived, with an opportunity to heighten their station in life. And I got to tell you, for someone who never expected to do this work, and I'm coming up on 20 years now of doing this, this is probably the best job that I've ever had because I get to work with some fantastic individuals that really know their business. But I also get a chance to work with a group of people to change the direction of people's lives. And that's crucially important. particularly at a time like this. And so to be affiliated with Noble, it just warms my heart. One of my superintendents and I attended a Noble conference 2 years ago, 2 or 3 years. And when I walked in, we got there at lunchtime, doors opened up, and I saw maybe 2,000 of the most beautiful Black men and women that I'd ever laid my eyes on. And when we got back to Massachusetts, we started making moves to establish a chapter here, which we did. And interestingly enough, a lot of people have joined our chapter. And so we feel really good about that. And so I'm honored to be on this panel tonight, and I'm looking forward to the discussion.
Well, thank you all, each of you, with a unique story and how we got here, and certainly appreciate your time as we get ready to have a robust conversation, because time is one of the things that people don't have to give you. And certainly thank you. By way of note, we got Sheriff Melanie Maddox back. So one county over from me. So welcome. I know we will have, there she is. So welcome, Sheriff, and congratulations. And give us a couple, I'll throw it over to you and introduce yourself for us.
Well, listen, thank you. I'm so honored to be on the panel with all the distinguished guests that I see on here. And I do understand, as you say, I'm originally from Atlanta, Georgia, born and reared, and actually grew up in the DeKalb County area where I am now sheriff. So I understand about the females. You said the first female sheriff in, you said 183 years of history. I'm sure I still had some technical difficulties over here, but we're going to get it right. I am the first female sheriff in 193-year history in DeKalb County. And I'm just looking forward to continuing the work that I have been doing for years. This is not my first rodeo in terms of running for sheriff. I ran in 2014. I was a member of Noble back in, 1988 as the little lone recruit for Atlanta Police Department. So I'm looking forward to continued relationship, for us bridging the gap, as we know we are in some terrible times here, and we have to come together. And this is where it starts. It starts with us, because we are leaders and we have to come together and see what we can do. Just recently, my family has become a victim of violence. I just received a phone call on Friday night that my 26-year-old little cousin that I adopted at the age of 9 was killed. The only thing we know that at this point is that he was shot. So there is some conversation that needs to be had, and there is some networking. There is some trust that we need to put back into the community to see what is going on and why. The question needs to be answered, why. So again, thank you, Noble, for inviting me on here as the sheriff, and all of the sheriffs on here, because we matter as well. So thank you.
Well, certainly, Sheriff, thank you for being here. And on behalf of Noble and our viewership, we certainly we have you in our prayers for your loss. And as always, I keep saying I'm the next county over. So if you need something, please don't hesitate. We're here. Again, thank you all. And so let's get started. Let's have a great conversation. One of the questions that is burning right through our community, and I think it's from your perspective as sheriffs, how would you describe the current state of affairs between law enforcement and the community? And so let's start, if I can be so bold, with Sheriff Bilal, and then we'll circle around and make sure everybody gets a chance to answer this question.
The state of law enforcement. You start me off. This is gonna go a minute. Between the community and law enforcement around the country has been a strain for a long time. It just has toppled over at this point. We know what law enforcement was formed back in the day, and it still seems to have that mentality that we are warriors and it's us against them, when we should be helpers in our community. So right now it's a really strain, and it just toppled over. So at this point, it leads us to an opportunity to get things right and to fix things. So I say it's a strain, and that's a long conversation as to how long. I'm not even going to go there. I just want to be able to move forward on changing the atmosphere and changing the mindset and moving forward on bringing people together to work out these problems and issues between the law enforcement community and our community, because our job is supposed to be to serve them. Our job is supposed to be protect and serve them. And so when it gets to this point of disconnect, there's something wrong. There's something that's been wrong, and we need to fix it.
So Sheriff McFadden, as we go through that conversation between the community and law enforcement, add to that, if you will, your thoughts on how demanding the community is with us changing law enforcement practices and some of the training. So what's your take on that?
Well, it is going to be a very challenging piece. We're at a different place in America now. You know, a lot of times we got away with going to a community and just doing these what if you do on a traffic stop. We way beyond that now. Black Lives Matters movement has been absolutely hijacked by some people in America that doesn't look like us. We're going to be asked to do a lot. When, you know, we looked at this panel discussion, where do we go from here? Well, I simply say, who are we going to take with us when we go? Do you know that you're going to have to reach down and as we say, this is why we're having this conversation, that you're going to have to reach down and pick the sheriffs to help you. We're going to have to understand that we have to watch each other's back. The community is upset. The community is upset, and they don't care what color you are at this point because you're in law enforcement. It is going to simply take us to control what is happening in our community. And these panels and these forums that we usually have in our communities is not going to work. The community hate us. They hate anything about law enforcement right now at this point, and it's going to take us to help change it. So we've got a lot of work. You know, we're going to have to get out of the office. We're going to have to get into communities, create community initiatives that help our people. Because after this economic downfall that we're going to have from COVID, you know, people are going to look to us who are in leadership that looks like all of us on this panel. And we're going to be sacrificial lambs if we don't know what we're doing.
Great point. Great point. So, Sheriff Tompkins, the same question, right? The community is certainly demanding changes, and I'll throw something extra in with you as sheriff. Have you received some of these ideas, as well as have you begun to implement any of them?
Well, first thing, before I make comments, I would like to offer Sheriff Maddox my condolences, first and foremost, for your loss. So sorry. Let me say this. Coming from a different background, i.e. communications, when I first got to the Sheriff's Department, coming in as the Director of Communications, and then 3 years later promoted to the Chief of External Affairs, I had what I thought was a lot of great ideas and initiatives and things that I wanted to do that was innovative. And what I kept getting was the Heisman. I kept getting the stiff arm. And what I was consistently told was, well, that's not the way that we've ever done things. So why would we want to do it that way now? And this actually came from my predecessor a couple of times, African-American female, which I didn't understand because I thought the way that law enforcement, particularly corrections, was being effectuated could have been done differently. And so after 11 years, my predecessor went to work for the governor of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and he appointed me to be the sheriff. And I showed up day one, and I looked at everybody, and I said, well, check this out. How you like me now? I'm that guy who had all those great ideas that you folk didn't want to put in play. But I tell you what, once we started to make changes, people that had been in law enforcement and corrections much longer than I really rose to the challenge. And a lot of the programming and some of the best things that we do have come from those folk that have been there for quite some time, but they just, frankly, for whatever reason, I would say, hadn't been liberated to allow them to do these different things. Before I end, though, I'm going to take you in a different direction, Patrick. So 400 years ago, when Africans were taken from their motherland and brought to the shores of this country. They didn't arrive here as immigrants seeking a better life. They didn't arrive here as indentured servants with the possibility of buying their way out of servitude. They came here as chattel, as property of other men. And so when we look at what's going on in our communities, if you have always thought that these people, basically folk of color, was your property, you were going to treat them in a way that you wouldn't treat your own family or other people. And that's what we have been subjected to. And so when I'm asked, do I think the criminal justice system is broken, not just policing, but the criminal justice system in its entirety, I say, no, I don't think it's broken. I think the criminal justice system was built to be punitive and oppressive. Now, over the years, over the decades, over the centuries, it may have changed some and gotten better in certain places and worse in other places, but it was built to be this way. And so if you've got your knee figuratively and literally on a people's neck, you're going to treat them however you want to treat them. And so the communities have had enough of that nonsense. And I actually thought that the protests after George Floyd was buried would stop, but it hasn't. I mean, when you have places like Portland, Oregon, where people are protesting every day, it just sends a clarion call that we better check ourselves as a people before we wreck ourselves as a people. And so I think that's where we're at now. I think we have an opportunity to change that dynamic, although it took us a long time to get here. So it's going to take us quite a while to get to someplace else. But I think right now we have that opportunity. And I'll end by saying this, Patrick. I find it very interesting that what's going on, you know, that saying hindsight is 2020. I find it very interesting that a lot of this nonsense is happening in 2020. In 2020. So I believe that we're getting a call from somewhere saying that slow down, take some time, figure out what you want to be as a people, and then get your act together.
Well, certainly, Sheriff, we appreciate that. And Sheriff Maddox, I apologize. I wouldn't want to follow Sheriff Tompkins in any question. But that said, you know, I had the pleasure of personally watch you lead during some of the toughest times I've seen in the Atlanta metro area. So from your perspective, how do you see some of how do you view some of the changes that individuals outside of law enforcement are demanding of law enforcement? And then what is your plan moving forward? What does that look like?
Well, first of all, we have to thank you. We have to change the narrative. As I said before, it starts with us. And what's been happening is that we've been sitting around having these roundtables and discussions for years. And we've been talking. We've been talking and we've been talking. It's time for us to start listening. We need to listen. We need to listen to them and see what's going on, see what's understanding what's in their head. Because again, times has changed. Mental illness is on the rise. You have over 83 million Americans, actually throughout the world that have mental illness. And some of us, as we may say, may have it and don't even know that we have it. So we have to learn how to deal with that. But we have to change that. And how does that start? It starts with us. And me as the sheriff, I did that from day one, going in on December the 1st. The first thing I did is start assessing the whole situation at the jail. That's number one. And I started walking the floors. And that allowed me to talk to those inmates and ask the questions. Why? Why are you here? What made what got you here? How did you make the decision? Do you think that you could have done anything differently, or what? So we have to listen. We're not listening. We want to talk. We want to put on the brass. This uniform and thing, it looks good. It looks nice. But what are we doing? And that's what the community wants to see. They want to see us out there, as Sheriff said, out in the community. They want to see the leaders. Yes, we have workers that go out there, what we call the worker bees, but we need to be the worker bees as the sheriff and as the chief, to go out there and interact with the community and see for ourselves. Because when somebody else go out there and bring it to you, it's going to be totally different than when you see it for yourself. So again, back to the floors, it allowed me the opportunity to be able to talk to them. And that's how I make my decision for certain things as to what I do, my next move in the jail as the sheriff. It's based on these inmates. Now, unfortunately, COVID came in March, which shut my movement down. It shut their movement down, but it definitely shut my movement down because I have to take care of me, as they say. If something happens to the captain, then the ship goes down. So the pilot and all that. But I still have to make sure that, number one, my employees are taken care of. I have to make sure that those inmates are taken care of. Why? Because those inmates belong to someone. And I feel like that if I start off with the employees and I take care of them, guess what they're going to do? They're going to go out there in the community and they're going to bridge that gap, because those people are going to be able to trust them. And it has to start somewhere. And we have, the first and foremost thing is the big T, and that is trust. Like you said, all the sheriffs have said the same thing. They don't like us. They don't trust us. And they don't see sheriff, they see law enforcement, police officers. We all carry a gun. We all wear this uniform. So we got to get out there. We got to get out there, and we have to listen to what they are saying and take heed as to what they're saying and explain to them. And it's about accountability. Tell these people, if you can, you can do it. You can do it. If you can't, then you can't do it. It's okay to say, I cannot do it, and here's why. But explain to them why you cannot do it. That's all that the community is asking for. Trust and accountability. And it's not that hard. That's why we are in the role that we're in to start. It starts with us.
So what a great place to start with the next question, and we'll start with Sheriff Tompkins. You heard Sheriff Maddox talk about trust. So is it possible to rebuild trust in Black and Brown communities? If so, what does that look like?
I'm an eternal optimist, and so yes, I do believe that it is possible. That said, as the sheriff just referenced, several sheriffs have referenced, it's gonna require us to not be desk jockeys. That we do have to be in the communities. We do have to be seen. We do have to, like what we do in Suffolk County is, I've got officers working with all of the police stations in my county, as well as all of our law enforcement partners. Reason being, because we have these what we call frequent flyers, people coming back and back and back, the intelligence that we have is probably in certain cases better than the Boston Police and other police departments. And so why not share that information? And so we have to be an active community partner. And as Sheriff Maddox just referenced, we really have to listen. That hasn't happened a lot or enough. And let me say this, our charge is care, custody, and control, right? And with that said, when I'm standing in front of people and I'm explaining what our mandate is, I say to them, when I'm talking about custody, I say, if you look up the word custody in the dictionary, there's two meanings. The first is imprisonment, and the second is guardianship. It's guardianship. And I think that's crucially important, that we are working with a group of people where we understand their difficulties and what's happening and what's going on with them. I think that's crucially important. And I'll close by saying this: when we have our academies to bring on new officers, I've directed my HR department to look for people that don't necessarily have a military background, but have a social work background, a psychology background, a mental health or substance abuse background, because that's the burning issue of the day. I've got far too many people in my facility that have mental health issues and substance abuse. In fact, sometimes we joke, where did all of the garden variety bank robbers go? I don't have them anymore. We have people that have some serious, serious problems. And so we need, as a group of professionals, to understand that and work with these folks like we do understand, and that we want to be helpful.
I think that's a great place to start. So Sheriff McFadden, we often say that our hearts are bigger than our badges. So what's your outlook on how we rebuild trust in these Black and Brown communities?
Well, the people here will tell you my heart is bigger than my badge, because for all these decades, I've been in the community every day, and we'll stay in the community no matter what COVID. My thing every day now is taking masks to the Black businesses, restaurants, and just drop 200 masks on the counter, but have that conversation. It also has to start inside. You know, I appreciate everybody saying inmate. We don't say inmate. We say resident. We don't say jail. We say detention center. And then just starting that helps them. Last year, I registered 250 men and women inside my detention center. Why? Because I said that you matter. So when you start building that inside, it floats outside to that mother, to that cousin, and to that family member. So basically, we have to start with the men and women who we have time with housed inside. Culinary schools, barber schools. We even have a haberdashery where men who leave the center may not have the clothes to wear, and we put them in a suit. Those small things help into the community. Had a young man wanted to be baptized. We bought a portable pool. We had our first baptism. Now that same church now fed us all through COVID. So we're going to have to get out of the office, get into the community without an entourage. I go into community, they worry about me every day because I ride by myself. Now, somebody's looking after me? Yeah, they do. But I'm not afraid of the community. I have marched with the community. I have put my 846 mask on. I've kneeled in the community, but I'm just in the community eating in the hood. We all say that we come from the hood and we all this, but do we go back to the hood? But another thing that I think that's more important than anything else, we have to support each other. And I'll tell you, if any of you all say, McFadden, I'm having a press conference about a problem in my city, I will come and see you. You should have that in your budget. Once the people see us standing together, shoulder to shoulder, and we look like each other, that's a powerful thing. And I think I've contacted everybody on here, may not know you well. I know me and my sister, went to Philadelphia. I had to find her. And we had this great dinner and we connected. And that's what we need to do. If my sister's down in Atlanta having a problem in the cab and she said, hey, can y'all come and stand with me? I think that's what Nobles need to do. Once they see that, they're going to say, that's a powerful organization. We can all do it. It's not going to cost us any money. Then the community is going to say, I can trust them because they look like me. They seem like they work together and we're not divided. But simply, we cannot do business like we've been doing it in the past. And we are going to have to take care of each other. Because when I tell you that they're coming after this COVID thing, they're coming. They're coming for each and every one of us to take us out of our position if we're progressive. But we have to get the community on our side. We're going to have to go back in the community, sit at the restaurant, talk to the people, and not just do this when it's campaign season.
That's absolutely amazing. And you mentioned Sheriff Bilal and dinner. I'm not going to get jealous, but Sheriff Bilal, tell us your thoughts on how we begin this rebuilding trust in our Black and brown communities.
I think we can build the trust back. And I think we've been doing it one block, one location at a time. So when COVID came in, what I said to our people is, even though you are elected to be a sheriff, whether you're elected or appointed to be a sheriff, that you have to do more. You can't say, I'm the sheriff, this is my bubble here, and this is all I can do. You have to do more. That means we had to get out there in the community and basically do more. So what we did in Philadelphia, the one thing shut down was people income. So they didn't have the money that they normally did to go to the markets and go to the stores. So now you're looking at what it is that you can do. Find a partner. We found a food donated partner where we started feeding people. First, I said my deputies thought that, we just work in the courts. Court shut down. We could stay home. I was like, nah, you are out here. What we're going to do is put you at the distribution sites so that you can help the people out there, make sure people get food. Then we found a vendor that donates food. And so we started doing every 2 weeks food giveaways. And the purpose of this was to link up with the organizations in the different neighborhoods because they didn't know anything about Friends Caring food distribution place. And so we will do a food distribution that day, and that organization will link up with the Friends Caring food distribution so that food can come consistently into their pantry. And so now we're out there showing them that we're going to help with the food. Mind you, we're the sheriffs, but we have to do more. So we can't just put ourselves in a box. We can't put ourselves in, we just law enforcement and that's it. This is the time to branch out into all areas where you can help people out, where you can do more so they can see you. I think my 27 years, that's all I've done. It was out in the community. So I ain't get too many hate mails. I think I got people checking on me, make sure I was okay. You got food? You all right? Where you at with the COVID? I worked during the whole COVID shutdown. I wasn't home working from my computer. I was in the office. So when we say we got to do it, we need action items. That means we can have these conversations because I'm suffering from meat burnout. Like the sister said, I am tired of meeting. So we can do action items as to what we're going to do day by day, week by week, because we need to get into the trenches and stop playing like we the officials and everybody else is everybody else. No, we live in these cities. Our families live in the cities. They hit hard by crime. They are hit hard by COVID, and we need to jump out there and do more. Yes, I think we can build trust, but we're going to have to do block by block, city by city, location by location, wherever we got to go to do something, then we need to do it.
Thank you, Sheriff. Thank you. Sheriff Maddox, you started this trust conversation. So let's hear it.
Yes, absolutely. And let me tell you, for us as the sheriff, and I have to say, for us, it's going to start from the inside and work its way out. Because what happens if you treat those inmates in there with dignity and respect, guess what they're going to do? They're going to go out and tell them the respect that they got while they were incarcerated. And I have to take it back to we have drug court, and one of the participants in the drug court graduated, and he looked back, and I was getting ready to leave, and he said, Sheriff Maddox, he said, thank you. He said, DeKalb County Jail saved my life. That means a lot to me as the sheriff, and it means a lot to he and his family. And here's why I say that, because I follow these participants. I check on them for our programs that we have. I go when they're in class over at Georgia Piedmont Tech College. I go over and I check again. All this is before COVID hit. I go over and I check, and I said, I just want to make sure everybody's okay. You all here? You all right? Anything needed? Any concerns? That makes a big difference. People often say, well, everybody deserves a second chance. Well, guess what? Some people never had a first chance to get a second chance. So we have to look at it and take it as such that they didn't have a second chance. We've had a second chance. I'm sure all of us have had a second chance. But we have to treat those individuals with dignity. We have to treat them with respect. And even though we don't like what they have done, we are not here to judge them. And that's what I often tell them. I'm not here to judge you. I'm here to do a job. And this is what we're going to do. We're going to respect each other. And I make sure that the officers, the employees of the sheriff's office respect those inmates as well. Because guess what? It's more of them than it is of us. And I want to be able to go outside and not have to worry about looking behind my back, because I know I have not treated somebody's family member again with respect. When my inmates leave, and I always say, like you said, Sheriff McFadden, to change the narrative, the names. First of all, take that negative connotation off these individuals as they exit. I don't like the word release. I feel like we're releasing animals. So we don't use release. We use exit room or the transition, however you want to put it out, but we don't use release. We're not releasing animals. And when they leave, we give them a mask, and we tell them, because we want to make sure that you are protected and that you protect your family. We give them a post-COVID kit with information on it as how to take care of themselves. And we also give them a resource list as to if they need housing, food, help with anything else, clothing, everything is on there. But guess what? They also get a letter from me. Every inmate gets a letter from me. And on it, it says, now go walk in your excellence, accountability, and respect. That's my acronym for my agency. And I tell them, your life lesson is not your life sentence. That means a lot to that person, just that little word right there. And I have seen individuals just like, wow, the sheriff wrote a letter? I got a letter? And granted, it's a sticker, but the point still saying it shows some concern. It has shown concern. So we have to do that. And guess what? That's going to bridge that gap out in the family, because that person going to go out and say, I don't care what you say. The sheriff office took care of, the sheriff department, whichever is for each, took care of me, and I'm okay. And then maybe you will be surprised. You go out there and get into something, and that person may come up and say, "Oh no, you're not going to mess with them. No. They took care of me." And then guess what the family member is going to do? Come back and say thank you. And like you said, we can't wait until election time. You can't just all of a sudden pop up, "Oh, it's election time. Now I need to get out and get in the community." We got to keep it going. So when election time comes, guess what? We don't have to worry about that, Labat. So you will know that. You don't have to worry about that. When that time comes, when your 4 years are up and it's time, people are going to love you. You don't have to worry about it. And in my race, it was what, 9 people in it?
Yes.
It is
Yes,
what it is.
ma'am.
I've been in the community. I haven't just started this. I live in this community. My grandkids are in this community. My daughter's in this community. And people love that connection. I even get out there when it's parades and things. I twirl the baton. They're like, "Sheriff, you know how to twirl the baton?" I said, "Don't get it twisted." They love that. They love that. They love that realness. So again, it makes a big difference when they see the leaders taking the lead. Exactly what we are. We are leaders, and we have to take the lead. And if we're doing right, guess what? Everybody else is going to follow behind us. And again, as I said it before, it starts with us right here on this panel.
Well, as my mom would say, preach. You are 3,000% correct. Let's get to this third question, and I think it's certainly one that a lot of our viewers are concerned with from a sheriff's perspective. There's an extraordinary amount of work that has been put into, and recommendations made by the task force on 21st century policing. Why is that important? And then why should it be embraced by law enforcement and police executives? Let's start with Sheriff McFadden, and then I'll jump around to be fair.
Well, I'm a 100% believer in the 21st Century Police Initiative. President Obama had invited me and one of my friends to the White House to speak about the 21st Century Police Initiative, and he dubbed one of our initiative, Cops and Barbers, as that. And so if we can take the 21st Century Initiative, that is a guide, that is the foundation. We can take that book and implement these pillars in our community. I believe that we'll be in a better place. But we simply can't be jumping from one thing to another. Everybody's going to come out with a great idea after COVID. I guarantee you, and Black Lives Matter, they're going to come out with all kinds of things that they believe that move the community forward. I would simply say this. Let's take, for once, the 21st Century Police Initiative, go by it, work on that for a couple of years. And if that fails, so be it, we move on. But we have never really given that document a fair chance. And I believe that we can. And like my sister say, you're going to have to be in the community. That book says in the community, working in the community, and being a change agent. We have to do it. We have not done that yet. We played with it, we look at it, and then we put it down and somebody else brings us something else. I'm going to say this, that if we can follow that book for 1 year and do what we need to do in the community, change what we need to see change the policies, have your policies out. All of my policies are on the internet. On my website. If you want me to say, hold me accountable, it's on my website. I did change my policies in the middle of the crisis. Duty to intervene, racial profiling, look at my physical use of my men and women every day. How are we using them? Change comes with people in leadership like ourselves. I believe we can give the 21st Century Police Initiative a good chance. We will do everybody a favor. We have not put it together. We talk about it. We say that we're going to ride it, do an election, but have we taken that book and said, let me go through these pillars and let me take this book as our guide? We're going to have to do it because we're going into a place where we have never been, coming out of COVID, economically downtrodden, and they hate the police all in one. And we're still in this pandemic. So 21st Century Police Initiative, for me, that's a winning book. But we're going to have to implement it and stop playing with it and stop saying we are part of it and actually do what the book says.
Outstanding. Sheriff Bilal, this 21st century manual, certainly President Obama really set forth. Why do you think our executives at every level should follow this mandate and these pillars?
That's the blueprint for us to begin, or for us to really come together collectively to work towards building these fences in our community. That's the blueprint. So, and basically, like McFadden said, if we did come together and we took the manual and we started like we were studying for a test, we would go page by page and be able to work in our communities with this. We need to say now, this is what we're going to use as our blueprint, and collectively work together to implement mostly everything that we can possibly do legally into our community so we can help build the bridge. We don't tend to do that. We tend to try to boast of who did what when, and I did it over here and they did it over there, and nobody comes together. You can't really solve this if we don't really all come together and work towards a goal here. Use it as the blueprint, and then there's a goal that you're trying to reach because of the blueprint. And then it's like anything else. Then you go back and see what needs to be adjusted in the blueprint, and then you continue to work together, and then you measure what you're doing to see if it's working. But we haven't done that because it's too many times that we all want to go off on our own little tinsy. And then everybody's doing something different. And then when this is coming into fruition as to COVID, lockdown, economic downtrodden, people out of work, and then what are you saying? So yes, I think it should be used as the blueprint. I think we all need to work together and say, this is what we're going to do, and then come together and measure how we're doing it, adjust as we go along, jump in and help each other when we need each other's support and help, and then just move on. And let's see what happens here. It's just too many times everybody just wants to do their own thing. And when you do that, what you do? You don't plan anything, so you plan to fail. So let's get the book out and let's actually start a plan and come together and say, this is our initiative around the country. And then let's move towards doing it. And then measure it. See what happens.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So Sheriff Maddox, your thoughts on these pillars, 21st century policing, and how we can better manage and use that as that manual that Sheriff McFadden and Bilal talked about.
Hey, I have to agree with what Sheriff McFadden and Sheriff Bilal has said. Let's use it as a blueprint. Let's implement it and then measure it to see what's working. Because see what took place and what worked back then doesn't work in 2020. And we have to change that. And again, it goes back to changing that mindset, because see, a lot of us are still stuck back then. That's not going to happen in 2020. And we have to get rid of that mindset that what took place in 1970, 80 and all that, it cannot happen until this day. But we still, as already said, we have to come together. What's working for you? Ask. It's okay. Don't be too proud to ask. What is working in your community? What do you think that I should do? I'm okay. I will ask. So what do you think? Give me some suggestions as to what I should do over here in DeKalb County. What is working? How did that work for you? What do you think that I can do? It's okay with that. Like you said, we all sheriff, and we're this big sheriff, and I am the sheriff. I don't have to ask anybody anything. Oh, we don't need the chief. We don't need them. But we all have to come together for one good common cause to see what's worked. The 21st century, that, like you said, let's use it as the blueprint. Let's take it, see what works, and what does not work. Let's implement some things. It may not be able to implement everything, but let's take it and see what can we do. But let's sit down and again, come together, but not just talk about it. As they already said, let's be about it. Let's show it in our community so we can show these people that we are here for them. We're not just here to wear a uniform. And I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. Because I'm tired of, because there are those that are out there that's wearing this uniform that's giving us a bad name. And they're giving us not one black eye, but two black eyes. And now we have to work 5 times harder than before in order to go out in the community and get those people to trust us. So yes, I totally agree with it. I'm all for it, but we have to do it together. It cannot be a one man or one woman show. And I promise you, I can't do it by myself. I have not done it by myself, and I do not look forward to doing it by myself. I look forward to doing it with you all and others that are on this call and everybody else that is watching, because everybody has their area of expertise, and I'm not the expert in everything, but I take heed to what is given to me. If someone bring me a suggestion, I'm going to look at it. And again, if not, I will tell Sheriff a lot. I can't, and here's why we cannot do this. It may take a little more money. Other budgets are different. You have to look at budgets. So yes. So thank you.
So, no, thank you. So, Sheriff Tompkins, let me put you on the spot. I'm going to pivot a little bit. One of the things that's great about this session is that we also have comments from our viewers. And so one of the questions was from the audience is, where do sheriffs stand concerning constructive, honest union accountability within agencies and transparency? So let me throw that to you. Where do sheriffs stand?
Wait, did you say, I'm sorry?
Where does sheriff stand concerning constructive, honest union accountability within agencies? Is that something you deal with?
Yeah, brother, I have 6 unions. Okay, I have 6 unions. So yeah, it's something that we deal with. I think that's an interesting question, given the fact that I think a number of the impediments, frankly, if I'm honest, comes from unions. You know, now I come from a union family. My father was he worked for the MBTA. I grew up in New York City, mass transit, and that put food on the table and clothes on our back. So I believe in unions, but I believe that there needs to be some common ground needs to be found. When I first became sheriff, I met with I have 2 officer unions, because back in 1990, 2 facilities they got rid of the penal department and put 2 facilities together, but they didn't meld the unions into one. So I have 2 officer unions. And, you know, I met with them and I said, look, tell me the 5 or 6 things that you like to get done. I'll tell you the 5 or 6 things that I'd like to get done. But we need to understand that we're not going to all get everything that we want, but we have to work collaboratively, because that is what the citizens of Suffolk County has hired us to do. Not to have infighting and all that noise and nonsense. They have hired us to safeguard their persons and their property, to get their family members and friends back to them whole as best as we possibly can. And it hasn't been easy, to tell you the God's honest truth. But, you know, you give a little bit to the unions, and they give a little bit back. But as one of the sheriffs referenced, you have to be honest. You have to be real, you know, and you have to say it like it is. This is not Candyland. Nobody wants to hear made up stuff, you know, and sometimes the truth can be brutally honest. It can hurt feelings. It can cause disagreements. But at the end of the day, we are our brothers and sisters keepers. And so we have to understand the responsibilities that we have been given in these jobs, particularly, like I was saying, in that mandate of care, custody, and control. And if you can't do that, or you don't want to do that, then do something else. But I also understand this. I've got about 700 and change officers. Whenever you have that many people, you're going to have a percentage of folk that it doesn't matter what you do, they're not going to be happy. You know, that's just the way it goes. But you need to understand that and try to work with that, and not necessarily penalize those that don't want to be a part of the party, particularly when the party is changing, you know. And when you talk about, you know, the 21st century policing, things are going to change. Let me say this to you real quick, Patrick. So we had Obama as our president, and it was great. You know, and people were like saying, oh, the country gets it. Black man, president. Yeah, okay, we're moving forward. And then we get Trump. As I can't even call him president. We get Trump. Let's put it that way, right? And that showed us that, you know what? No, this is not sweetness and light. This thing hasn't turned around. We still have a lot of work to do. We've got a lot of work to do. Then we get a pandemic. Oh, man, we get a pandemic. And so what Mother Nature, to me, is saying, you fools won't sit down and slow down and figure out how to do this the correct way? Well, I'm going to slow your ass. Oh, I'm sorry. Can I say asses? I'm sorry. I'm going to slow your behinds down, okay, and give you that opportunity to really think about what you folk want to be when you grow up. And then we have the murder of George Floyd. And you put those 4 things together, Obama, Trump, pandemic, George Floyd, 21st century police. We cannot do it the way we did it. We have to evolve. We have to evolve as a people, and we have to evolve as professionals. And that blueprint has been, as has been referenced by my colleagues here, is it is the playbook. You know, I dare say it's the Bible. I don't want to go there, but it is the playbook, and we have to follow that. But we have to follow that consistently. It can't be a flash and we do it today and forget about it tomorrow. This is an everyday deal for the rest of the time that we're in office. And when we leave, we better put somebody in or help get somebody in that will continue that care.
So let's pivot to from that perspective, Sheriff Maddox. Can we train our way out of the challenges we face today? Is it possible, i.e., implicit bias? If so, what can we add to the law enforcement tool belt to make sure that we are proactive instead of reactive?
Let me say this. We have some of the most trained officers there are. Or there is, should I say the correct way? There is. Throughout the world. And they hold all types of degrees, specialized certifications, advanced, firearms, the whole 9 yards. All that's well and good. You can send them to school. You can send them wherever, all Quake, Quantico, wherever you want to send them. But if you don't change their heart, and if you don't change their mind, and if you don't change their soul, that ain't worth a hill of beans, as the old folks would say. So no, you can't train them out of that. You can't send them to class. And that's what I keep telling people. Oh, well, they need more training on this. And then I go and give my resume, not to brag, but to say, okay, I have a bachelor's, 2 masters, defensive tactics instructor, certified instructor, hostage negotiator. But if I don't know how to apply that and use it, what good is it? What good is it? If you don't know how to respect someone, if you don't know how to treat someone, if you don't know how to talk to someone, we send our deputies to verbal judo. They go to verbal judo every year. They take use of force. We all take use of force every year. That's all well and good. Again, no. So can we train? No. But it has to, this is what we can do. We can hold them accountable. And that means, goes back again to us. We are held accountable to make sure that they are held accountable. And this is what I have to say back. When I came in and when I was sworn in on December 1st of 2019, my song that I used, my motto was change gonna come. When I got into office, I started my top to bottom review. And it was brought to my attention of a situation that took place. I wasn't even there in 2018. That the person was not supposed to be there, should not have been there. No disgrace and no throwing shade on the past year. But when it came to me and the subject violated again, there was no questions about it. Thank you for your services. Have a good day. I will hold you accountable. It will not be tolerated. I won't tolerate it up under my leadership, and it won't be done in my agency. And if I see it happening at somebody else's agency, I hope that I'm able to come to you all to say, this is what I observed and this is what I know. Again, it goes back to what Sheriff was saying, my brother's keeper. We have to hold each other accountable as well. You have to hold me. I expect you all to hold me up. I'm going to hold you all up. So we should be able to do that. So training is good. It looks good. It's on paper. That's fine. But if it's not applied and it's not applied right, it is of no good. And if they don't have, and I have to say this because I'm a God-fearing woman, and if they don't have God in their heart, it's definitely no good. Because see, I know I have to do right because I know I'm being held accountable by somebody that's higher than I am. And see, I'll tell people in a minute, I don't fear man, but I sure fear God. That's me. That's my fear. I fear what the repercussions will be coming from there. So the training, fine. We get our 20 hours in, sometimes 100 hours. And what? You got to train their heart. You got to train them you got to teach them how to love themselves first and foremost. And once you teach them how to love themselves, then they're going to learn they're going to pass that love on to those individuals outside, and that to those individuals in the jail as well, regardless of what they have done. That's not our job to sit there and judge. Like you said, Sheriff, it's for the care, custody, and control, and hopefully send them on their way.
All right. So the beauty of this is that I will pivot after that powerful statement. I will pivot back to the audience and ask this question, and anybody jump in. What impediments to has the Law Enforcement Bill of Rights restricted your ability to hold your staff accountable? So anybody can jump in.
Well, first of all, for us, this Rochelle Bilal, the Bill of Rights is not in ours. We have the unions, we have the FOP, we have arbitration. That's the part that basically restricts us in Philadelphia as dealing with somebody that is unprofessional and want to do whatever thing that they want. The other thing I want to tap on to my sister here is people have to have common sense. See, when we go around and we so intellectual that you forget actually where you came from and you don't have any common sense on how to deal with things, and you see yourself in that bubble and you up there and everybody else is supposed to be down here, is where a lot of the problems and disconnect come between law enforcement and citizens in our community. Everybody is special, but we have to get back down on the ground. And the arbitration is the problem in my city. And what I'm asking them to do now is to start looking at the arbitration association, because it impedes good commissioners or good leaders to discipline those who are doing mischievous, wrong, or even criminal acts. Because I've never seen an arbitrator, and maybe Noble need to take this on, I wish. I ain't never seen an arbitrator that looked like me. And I've seen some of those decisions in the arbitration association where they said, yeah, they did it, but that punishment is too hard, so we're going to give them their job back. But then when you see how many people that look like us that they gave their job back versus anybody else, so that may be an avenue we need to look at, and I hope our national organization will take that up. I yield the floor.
Good deal.
Sheriff,
Sheriff,
if I can follow up, Sheriff, allow with that. I was going to say arbitration. Arbitration has been a major pain in the behind. And actually, up here in Massachusetts, arbitrators are paid by the union. I mean, who's fooling who now? Okay, I mean, they're going to get those jobs back almost despite whatever it is that they've done. But the other problem that we have here in the Commonwealth is our legislators. Our legislators who have control of our dollars would like to dictate how we do our jobs when they really have no idea how we do our jobs. But because they have control of the purse strings, they want to tell us to do this or that or the other thing. And so we're always in this battle with them to, let me give you this quick illustration. So we're on the July to June fiscal calendar. They give us enough money to get to the middle of April. Then we have to go up to the State House to ask for a supplemental appropriation to get us to the end of June. They know how much money we need every year to do what we have to do, but this is a way of making us come to them to ask for the money that they know that we need. That is I don't even know if the word has been created to talk about just how bad that is, you see. And so we always have to push back on that. And one of the reasons that I am glad to see Noble really embracing corrections now is because up here, corrections is the caboose. We're the back of the train, okay? They've been arrested, they've gone through the courts, and then, oh, yeah, let's send them to jail. Now, as a county official, everybody that's in my facility is going home or going somewhere, you see? And so don't play with my money. Don't treat us like stepchildren, and work with us as the professionals that we are, you see. So arbitration, legislators, and the fact that corrections doesn't always get the respect that it's due is a problem.
So you mentioned being elected, right? So Sheriff McFadden, a lot of people lose sight of the differences between being constitutionally elected as the sheriffs are versus appointed police chiefs and police executives. It, expound upon that for us, if
Well,
you would.
that's the thing that we need to educate our community on also. We are constitutional officers. We are elected by the people. Our boss or whoever is in our cities and counties, that's our boss. And we have to tell them, we have to sometimes remind people of that. I feel kind of bad. I don't have that problem with the arbitrators and all of that in the southern state here. You know, I run this show, I run this house. If I feel that somebody needs to go, they get to go. And it's funny because I just had a guy here for 19 years. I had to let him go the other day. Let him go. We had a hearing, and he said something that was absolutely inappropriate. And it goes back to what my sister says. You know, we're going to have to take care of these rotten apples. We're going to have to take care of this, and it's the heart. We cannot train our way out of this, and we have to preach that every day. When I got in office, I said the train is pulled off. Who wants to get on it can get on it. Do we have racial problems inside our agency? Yes. I meet it head on. That's when you sit in front of my desk, we have a conversation. You go to my internal affairs or whatever you call it in your city. We investigate it. We have a hearing. It's left up to the vote in the room, and they're out. They don't have a recourse. You know, they can go and try to sue us, but they still don't have a recourse. And so, but we have to understand who we are as sheriff. And I believe that if we continue to have this conversation with nobles, they will understand how important we can be to this organization. We're being left behind. Imagine this. I don't know about anybody else, but I have probably 300 contracts in my facility. I can decide who gets that contract or not. I can decide if this brother or sister can come in and do some things inside my building. That's what we do here. You know, we're talking about reentry programs. Come on in and do my reentry program and let me pay you $35 an hour to do that. We hold a lot of the purse string. We hold the contracts. Imagine if every one of us on this call had the same healthcare provider and we asked them to do something for us and they don't do it. That's a negotiation part that we have. I know we do it here in North Carolina. It's several men. We came together. We took over the state of North Carolina in one election. 8 of us, African Americans, took over the whole entire state in one election. Do they fear us? Yes, because we stick together. Now, some drank the Kool-Aid. Yeah, a couple of them have drank the Kool-Aid. But I can tell you, I have 5 brothers that will stand by me, and I hear them every single day. So whatever I'm doing, he's doing. Whoever has his contract, if they want 5 of our contracts, we'll tell them in the room. You need to talk to us as a whole. What can we get? But it takes us working together. You can't, you know, I'm happy that Nobles came to us tonight. And like my brother said in a minute, I hope this is not a flashbang to get through it. Because I believe that you all need us and we need you. And we can learn from each other. But this is not grandma's church again. This ain't, you know, Barney Fife. This is not Mayberry. This is a whole new generation of law enforcement. And if you're not progressive, and if you're not doing what you need to do to change society, you're going to have to move out the way, and we'll go on about our business.
So Sheriff Bilal, tell us what the reception is and in terms of how the differences between the sheriff being elected as well as the police executives in Philadelphia. What's that like?
Elected is sort of different from the commissioner, who is the head of the police department, because they're separate entities. But what we have working in Philadelphia now is that we work together. We don't leave each other out. The woman who is the first woman ever police commissioner of the department versus the first woman ever elected for sheriff in the city have decided that we're not going to leave each other out, and we're not going to let our agency who are under us to attempt to do that. So we're working together. And also the woman who's in charge of the prisons, we're working together to make sure that we can assist each other in anything that goes on in the city. Normally, if it was past tense, they would leave, well, the sheriff is over here. Not understanding that the sheriff is the highest ranking law enforcement person in the city. Now, I would have walked around with 5 stars on, but I said, whoever gets in there, that determines what stars I was going to put on my shoulders. So since there's another sister, then we're equal on the same playing field. I didn't boast around who's the head person, but I'm just kidding on that one. We work together. Um, she has a boss who is the mayor. The mayor is not my boss. Though I have a budget that I have to get through the city, the mayor is not my boss. So basically, I run my department and I run the sheriff office and I work with the city on different things. But as far as the law enforcement agencies, we are working together.
Okay.
Try not to let them make it a difference between the two of us.
Well, first of all, thank you for that intentionality, and certainly we at Noble adore Commissioner Outlaw, and so thank you for taking the lead and making sure that is absolutely a blended family, if you will.
That's right.
Sheriff Maddox. So closer to the South, right? A lot of people don't understand what the sheriff's duties are. Right. Outline those for us, and then maybe throw in how they differ from, again, being appointed in the South.
Okay, you do me a favor and say that one more time for me, please. My phone, I had to have them to plug my phone up because it was.
No worries, no worries. This is all great for us. This technology, I do want to applaud Noble. So as we talk about the differences between being elected and certainly being appointed, a lot of people don't know what the sheriff's constitutional responsibilities are. Can you expound upon that for us?
Yeah, thank you for asking. And that's one of the things. The first thing I do when I go out in the community is try to differentiate and tell the difference between the two. As a chief of police, we have our first female chief of DeKalb County, Chief Martha Ramus, and she's doing an outstanding job. And I love it because we have a very good working relationship. As you said, we got to work together because we're in it together. We're in the trenches together. But I have to educate the community because, again, they don't know. And the first thing they said, well, you're the sheriff. Yes, I am the sheriff. Here's the deal. And I tell them that I am a constitutional officer. I have to put it in layman's terms and say, I'm voted in by the people, and the people are the only one that can vote me out. So I get in by you all, and you all are the ones that can put me out. Nobody else can do anything. It's not about the power. Yes, we are the most powerful person. But again, we are responsible for the administrative court, jail, and field divisions. I have to explain about the administrative side, about the warrants, about the courts. And the part is, of course, I'm sure for all of us on here, is the jail, is maintaining the care, custody, and control, the triple C's, as Sheriff said, of those inmates, making sure they are taken care of. And that means, and what people, again, fail to realize, again, it goes back to education. You have to educate these people, and it starts something so simple as to that, and telling them that means we have to make sure they eat, we have to make sure they get their medical, we have to make sure they get their dental. If you have a pregnant female, we have to get that pregnant female to her OB appointments. If there's somebody, if we have the COVID that's going on, if it gets too bad and they have to be on a ventilator, we have to make sure they go to the ventilator. We have to then have that deputy out on that person at the hospital with that. But also with the courts, we are responsible for making sure that you are safe as you go into any of those courthouses, as you exit out of the courthouses. So we have to make sure that we educate the public on that, because they are so not familiar with that. They only see the badge, the patch, and they see the gun, and they think, oh, were you a police officer? You can do this. Yes, I can. However, here are my primary roles and responsibilities. And if you allow me to do this and let the chief do that and the police officers do their role, but we work together, I promise you, we can make a dent in what's going on in our community today. But again, it goes back to that. They are not seeing us together. They are not seeing us together. They're seeing everybody, all the departments head separate. and we have to come together. So those 700, I have to speak for my community. I have 750,000 citizens in DeKalb County. I am responsible for 750,000, whereas the chief is only responsible for unincorporated DeKalb County, which is probably about that big as compared to my, part of DeKalb County. So, and again, but we still work hand in hand. So, I have to break it down to them. And like I said, that's one of the things that I did. The first thing I did is went out and educated people, because people did not know. And they said, oh, we didn't know that. And then they're wondering, even with the election, well, why do we have to come out again? We just voted. Well, then you have to break that down to them. And then you have to talk about the 4-year thing. Well, when are they going to get out? We can stay here as long as you all vote us in here.
Yeah, absolutely. Sheriff Tompkins, you look like you want to chime in.
We've got an interesting thing going on up here. So our police commissioner is an African American, Willie Gross. Our district attorney is an African American female, Rachel Rollins. I'm the sheriff, African American. The police chief of the mass transit system here, Kenny Green, African American brother. The head of the federal marshals, John Gibbons, is a brother. And all across the Commonwealth, we have all of these good Black brothers and sisters running stuff. And so it's interesting dynamic here, particularly in this county where we have the police chief, the DA, and the sheriff, all three of us, Black. And so historically, that has been, those seats have been occupied by the Irish or the Italians. And we were, as my brother here said, the residents, okay, in these facilities. Well, that dynamic has now changed. It's flipped over on its head. And so we have to be, when you talk about, as Sheriff Maddox just referenced, we have to be united. We have to come together. We have to work together consistently so that everybody in the Commonwealth, everybody in my county understands that we have each other's back. And we actually do have each other's back, but we have to, and we can't slip. And even if one of us goes off the rails, as long as it's not too far off the rails, this is our family. It's our turn, okay? It's our turn. And a lot of people can't handle that. Deal with it. Like my sister said, get with it or get gone. It's our turn. And so we feel really good up here in the Commonwealth, but we know it's not going to be an easy lift, and we've got a lot of work to do. But it's pretty cool, whether you're elected or appointed. If you got this, then we got to come together and take care of each other.
So let me ask this, and anybody can answer and jump in. We have a few minutes left. What mechanisms, if any, do you have in place to protect those that, for lack of better words, are whistleblowers, or those that see something bad happening that, Sheriff, you mentioned a duty to respond, duty to report. What mechanisms do we have in place to protect those that want to have honesty and the good officers, if you will?
Just Rochelle Bilal, just note that they're not retaliated or targeted under me. Previous administration, if you spoke out about incidents, then you became the targeted, transferred in the middle of the day, put to the lot, moved underneath, don't get any training. They're not retaliated against, or nor are they targeted. And if anybody, and by doing this, by sitting down, having conversations with my deputy sheriffs, one-on-one with me in the groups, so I can explain to them what the vision is now, and having supervision training so that the supervisors, managements of the institution know what my vision and mission is, and letting them know that from this point on, this is how we do things. And if you do, you either get on board, and if you don't, you're going to be standing over in the corner alone. What you're not going to do is target and retaliate against anyone that works for this institution if they see something and speak out and talk about it or tell what is going on. There's no such thing as a snitch in the sheriff department. They're just communicators.
Sheriff Maddox, I see you. They got
hear
you.
me. Okay,
They
now
got you. They got you.
I totally agree. Okay, totally agree with Sheriff Bilal. And let me say this: I went to each of my roll calls. I'm often in the roll call. Again, this COVID has put put a lot of stuff on the back burner. I'm sure for all of us, but definitely for me because I'm so hands on. But I went to all my roll calls. So my deputies, none of them, not just the deputies, but the employees of the DeKalb County Sheriff's Office have no excuse.
None.
They have a charge that's called party to a crime. And with the same way they are being charged for party to a crime, I will make sure. Let me say this. And when I say that, you will get disciplined. Because if you stand there, you are just as guilty. My grandmother used to say, you just as guilty of it because you stood there and you watched it and you didn't say anything. And that goes to, I'm old. I told you I'm old school, but it's the same way. And that's what I told my employees. If you stand there and you see it, you don't say anything, I'm going to hold you accountable. Remember what I said? I have that acronym in my agency, EAR. And you can ask anybody. When you get off this call, you ask anybody who work for the DeKalb County, and they better be able to say it. Ask them what is EAR. Excellence, accountability, and respect. And they will be held accountable. And I told them, I will fight for you. I've changed my tattoo policy, and we got it in place because my thing is, as long as it's not vulgar, it's sexist or gang related or anything on the officers or whatever.
Right.
If they come to work and they do their job and they do it with integrity, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with it. But you will be held accountable. You will not stand by and continue to let things happen and don't say anything, because if I find out that you do, just be ready for the repercussions to come. Again, I take it back to the rear of my grandparents, from my grandmother and my grandfather. You see it, you saw it, you said nothing. So you get the butt whipping with the person that actually did it. You are a party to a crime. It's about holding those people responsible and holding them accountable, because guess what? 750,000 citizens are holding me accountable. And they came out and they showed up for my election. That means they trust me and they're holding me accountable for that, to do what I'm supposed to do.
So as we get ready to wrap, as we get ready to close, I want to make sure people don't have to give you their time. And each of you have, I will predict this will be absolutely the best forum of the entire conference. We'll speak that into existence. It has absolutely been amazing. Sheriff McFadden, your background did not slip us, right? It didn't sneak past us.
Very
So
good.
we certainly appreciate it.
I'm working with it.
It looks good on you.
Believe it or not, I have a 6 by 12 foot banner that hangs in front of my detention center that says, "Here, Black Lives Matter."
Amen. Amen. So let me start by saying thank you to Noble for putting this on. It was needed. Sheriff Tompkins has been an advocate for making sure that we bring in conversations like this with sheriffs and with and setting up roundtables from the moment I met him, especially involving corrections as well. Certainly a huge thank you to Axon and to Thomson Reuters for sponsoring this forum. And I mean, again, it's just amazing. I'm not sure if each of you can see the comments that have been coming up, but it is absolutely needed. It is fantastic. I will encourage everybody on here. I will myself, as Noble stores this, to go back and watch it, and hopefully you all can see the comments. And I thank each of you for being progressive, for really understanding not just the job, but understanding what the needs of the community are. So on behalf of Noble, I want to thank each of you for being here, and congratulations. And certainly I will ask, I'll circle back to see how we create a link that includes maybe numbers and emails so we can continue the conversation. I think it's one of those things that we have to really focus on, continuing the conversation. It's the only way we get better. Thank you for making each of our listeners and viewers better. And so with that, I will say good evening, and certainly be safe, and make sure we all wear masks. So thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you.